Imagine you're at the grocery store picking up a can of soup. The price you see is shaped by a global journey. Ingredients, packaging, and delivery all rely on imports. Now suppose the government adds a special tax on imported metal. The soup company pays more, passes the cost to the store, and you pay extra at checkout. That's a tariff, a tax on goods entering the country. For centuries, tariffs have raised government revenue and protected local industries by making foreign goods pricier, encouraging people to buy domestic. But tariffs also make everyday items more expensive and can trigger retaliation from other countries, hurting American exporters. The debate over tariffs is as old as the nation. Should we prioritize cheaper goods through free trade, or protect jobs at home, even if it costs more? This question came to a head when tariffs were used for national security, not just economics. The idea, if the US relies too much on foreign materials like steel or aluminum, it could be vulnerable in a crisis. A specific law gives the president power to act in these situations. But what if national security is defined too broadly? That question sparked a legal battle over presidential authority and the future of American trade. The outcome would affect not just policy, but the price of goods in every American home. And it all started with a simple can of soup. The controversy centers on Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, a Cold War law letting the president impose tariffs if imports threaten national security. Originally, it was for emergencies, ensuring enough materials for defense. For decades, it was rarely used. That changed in 2018, when the Trump administration invoked Section 232, claiming steel and aluminum imports threatened national security. The administration argued that a strong domestic metals industry was vital for economic and military strength, a broader interpretation than before. Tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum hit not just rivals like China, but close allies like Canada and the EU. Allies retaliated with their own tariffs, sparking a trade war. US manufacturers relying on imported metals saw costs soar, while a few domestic producers benefited. The policy created uncertainty and strained international relationships. Affected businesses, facing higher costs and lost markets, decided to challenge the president's use of Section 232 in court. The stage was set for a historic legal showdown. The outcome would redefine the limits of presidential power over trade. As tariffs squeezed American companies, many faced a stark choice: absorb higher costs or pass them to customers and risk losing business. Frustrated, a coalition of importers and manufacturers sued, not against tariffs in general, but against the president's broad use of Section 232. Their argument: Congress never intended national security to cover routine trade disputes with allies. The case wound through the courts, with lower judges siding with the businesses, ruling the president's power wasn't unlimited. They found that using Section 232 for economic competition, not real defense threats, was an overreach. Despite setbacks, the administration appealed, insisting the president needed broad authority to protect the country. The case reached the Supreme Court, where the justices would decide who controls trade, the president or Congress. Billions of dollars and the future of American trade policy hung in the balance. The outcome would set a precedent for executive power. The stakes couldn't be higher for businesses and consumers alike. The nation waited for a ruling that could reshape the economy. At the Supreme Court, the government argued the president needs wide latitude on national security, and courts shouldn't second-guess those decisions. They cited past cases allowing broad executive action under Section 232. The businesses countered, only Congress can regulate trade and taxes, and the president can't use a security law for economic protectionism. If national security means anything, they warned, the president could control the entire economy unchecked. The justices pressed both sides. Could any trade deficit be a security threat? Should courts referee political disputes between Congress and the president? Outside groups weighed in. Businesses and the Chamber of Commerce backed limits on executive power, while some unions and steelmakers supported the tariffs. The arguments exposed a deep divide over the balance of power in Washington. The court's decision would determine whether the president's trade authority had any real limits. The nation watched, knowing the ruling would ripple through the economy and global trade. The justices' questions made clear this was about more than tariffs, it was about the Constitution itself. The future of American trade policy was on the line. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 for the businesses, sharply limiting the president's power to impose tariffs for national security. The majority said the president's authority isn't absolute. He must show a clear, direct link between imports and a specific security threat. Vague claims about economic strength or trade deficits no longer suffice. The decision reasserted Congress's constitutional role in trade and spending. Future presidents will need congressional approval for sweeping tariffs, shifting power back to Capitol Hill. The ruling invalidated the steel and aluminum tariffs, requiring the government to refund billions to importers. It marked a new era. No more reshaping the economy by executive decree. The separation of powers had been restored. 3 justices dissented, warning the court was overstepping into political territory. They argued Congress gave the president broad, flexible power for a reason, to respond quickly to unforeseen threats. By inventing a new legal test, the majority was tying the president's hands and weakening national security. The dissenters said if Congress disagreed with the president, it could change the law itself. They saw the issue as a political failure, not a judicial one. The dissent highlighted a deep divide over the court's role in checking executive power. The debate over who should control trade, and how, was far from over. The ruling has real-world impact. Companies that paid tariffs will get billions back, offering a lifeline to struggling manufacturers. For consumers, the end of tariffs means lower costs for goods like cars, appliances, and canned food. Those savings may take time to reach store shelves. The decision brings stability, ending the threat of sudden tariffs and making it easier for businesses to plan and invest. Trade policy will now move through Congress, with more debate and transparency. Not everyone is happy. Domestic steel and aluminum producers face renewed foreign competition. Unions warn the ruling could cost American jobs in those industries. The debate between free trade and protectionism continues, but now in Congress, not the Oval Office. The ruling doesn't end the controversy, but it changes how trade decisions are made. For Main Street, it means more predictability and, eventually, lower prices. The impact will be felt in paychecks, prices, and the broader economy. The story of tariffs is far from over. The Supreme Court's decision sent a strong signal to the world. America is returning to rules-based trade. Allies welcomed the ruling, seeing it as a step toward repairing strained relationships and ending retaliatory tariffs. The decision restores trust in the U.S. as a reliable trading partner and strengthens global institutions like the World Trade Organization. It makes it harder for any president to launch a trade war on national security grounds. Congress will now play a bigger role in shaping trade policy, making the process slower but more transparent. The ruling is more than a legal decision, it's a statement about American democracy and checks and balances. For the world, it signals a return to stability and cooperation. The debate over free trade versus protectionism will continue, but now in a more open constitutional way. The architecture of American governance, and its place in the world, has been reshaped. The next chapter in global trade will be written not by one leader, but by many voices.